Hi, it's Sandra here from Creating Spain, and today I wanted to make a little video on how to do some very simple watercolour effect roses in full bloom. Now, when I say simple, I really do mean simple. This is beginner's level, okay? There is nothing in this that anyone who can hold a pen or a pencil can't actually do. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, oh no, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't possibly make anything that looks remotely like a rose. And this is the tutorial that you've always wanted, because I'm going to show you that you can. Now, I'm not even going to be using watercolours for this, amazingly enough, and I'm going to be using supplies that you most probably have. I mean, if you're into crafting at all, or if you have a child who likes drawing, you probably have most of this stuff around. The only thing that I'm going to be using that you may not have is a water brush. Now, I've got 3 of the Pentel ones here, and I'm only going to be using one of them. And this is the one I'm going to be using. You could use any water brush really. And the reason I'm using a water brush is because it is a nice, easy way of controlling the amount of water that you use. It's much easier for me to show you how to do this with a water brush than it is to show you how to do it with a paintbrush and risk you getting results that you don't like because you've got too much or too little water on your brush. This does that work for you. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be using are some pens out of my stash of pens. But all I'm going to be using is simple children's markers. These are water-based. They're Carioca ones. They are water-based, and that's what you need. You don't want alcohol markers for this. You want watercolour markers for it. And I have some Carioca ones that are double-ended. I have some which are just single things, and they are all the super washable variety, which means that the ink in them or the colour in them dissolves with water, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on, that's not actually watercolour paint. Well, neither is this. This is the cheats version. This is why anyone can do this, even if you've never used watercolour paint in your life. Okay, I'm going to do a few little marks in the centre of this paper. I wouldn't normally do it in the centre, but this is demonstration purposes. And they're no particular shape, they're just concentrated squiggles of colour. That's it. Okay? I'm going to take my watercolour brush, and I am just going to go over these and stretch the colour out of it. I am not making them a predefined shape. I am just wiggling my brush from side to side, and that is it. I've got a piece of tissue here to wipe any excess from it. So my next layer, I'll switch to the wider one so maybe you can see it easier. I'm going to put a line which goes near to the bits that I've already covered with ink, but not quite joining it up. And I'm leaving a gap in between each of these lines. Take my brush and wibble, and do the same here, and on each one just wiggle it, and you're basically just stretching it out so that it forms a petal shape. Now, the petals could be lots of different shapes. You might have pointy ones, you might have very rounded ones. It can be virtually anything. And then I'm going to go around here with some more. I'm going to put in some smaller marks as well, because maybe not all the petals would be big, like so. And again, now this time I'm going to press down and pull up, press down and pull up, press down on one edge, and just following the line. I'm not, religiously following it, but I'm just following the basic direction of. Start at one end, press down, keep pressing, just follow the line and lift up. Press down, follow the line, lift up. And there you see your rose is taking shape nicely. Now, I would advise, if you're going to try this, do it with the one colour first. You can add another layer if you so wish. You can even add a thicker layer if you want to, like this. Okay? It's entirely your choice what you want to do. Try and make it so that they overlap the white gaps. It makes it look a little more realistic. And you can always add in some smaller bits if you want to. I'm going to do the same thing again. Press down, follow the line, shape, lift up. Press down, lift up. If you don't like the shape that you've done, you can always do a little wibble wobble and alter it. And there we go. If you get some bits which are missing any colour, you can obviously just go back over it again. You can do little wobbly bits like that if you want to, or you can just do the straightforward press down and lift off. Press down, lift off. Now these don't look quite so good as that does, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger. There we go. And I'm even going to do a little freehand one with the bit of colour which is still in my brush. And there we have a basic rose. And you can see that you've got, without any effort at all, you've got the shading that you want on the petals. If you want to do it, you can go in, you can add some more colour, and you can go over it again with your brush and add a little tint on whatever edges you so wish. Okay. You can also add a different colour. Okay, I've got a slightly different pink here. So you could do a little bit of a slightly different colour pink, and then add a few strokes of your watercolour brush to blend that in. And it's up to you whether you want to add a different colour to it or not. That is a more advanced thing. It's easier to do the same colour at first, and then as you get more practiced, you can add in different colours. So that would be the main way of doing the rose. Now, if you're wondering how to do stalks, your best bet, if you want to do a stalk, is to use a fine pen. Now, this one is extremely fine, and you'd work out where the rosebud or rose was likely to have got its base. Okay, and you can draw a very, very fine line. You can draw a wibbly wobbly line for a leaf if you want, and just do that. And make sure you've got the red, if you've used red, make sure you've got the red off of there first. You can add some water to this, and you can even add a second colour if you wish. And then when it comes to the leaf, you can add some from a thicker pen if you want to. So for example, I might just add a few strokes of colour like that, and then blend them in to whatever shape that I want. You can add some darker greens to it if you want to add some more shading to it. There we are. And you can flick it out. You can draw that back down into the stem. We can put some more up here. I can't for the life of me remember what that part of the flower stem is called. So, and you can add some more colour. But in general, what I'm after is the actual rose itself. And you can do a very similar thing with watercolour. And I'm going to get some watercolour paper out and show you. This is a normal sort of card. It is not, or normal paper. It might be cartridge paper, I'm not sure what it is. But what you need to do when you do this is to do a test swatch on the paper with a pen and just see whether you can stretch the colour out with one of these brushes. If you can't, then change to a different sort of paper. But this paper accepts it quite well. If you're using a shiny card, it probably wouldn't work as well. I don't know. You just have to test it and see. So I'm going to get some watercolour paper now and do the same thing with watercolour paints. Right, I have a set of Winsor and Newton watercolours. This is just, you know, a travel set and is at the cheaper end of the ranges. And what I'm going to do is put that in front of me. I'm going to take a glass tile and a relatively small brush. This is a cheapy brush. Just dip it into the water and rub it onto my paint, which, as it happens, because I did some earlier, it's already wet. And just put some paint on here. Okay. Now, I've rinsed off my brush, so I'm starting off with a clean brush. And I'm just going to dry it in my piece of tissue. So, the watercolour version of this. Take a nice brush load of colour. And again, we're just putting down a few marks. You know, it's nothing that has a definite shape at all. It's just a few marks. And rinse that off. And I'm going to take my water brush and just stretch out that colour into some kind of semblance of petal shapes, but it's not definite by any stretch of the imagination. Now I'm going to start doing a little line around there. And remember what I said about overlapping the gaps. You don't want to have all your gaps lined up because it makes it look really weird if you do that. And there we go. Brush to one side and press down, wibble wobble and lift off. Press down, wibble wobble, lift off. Press down, wibble wobble, lift off. There we go. And you can see the shape of the rose already. There we are. Now if you want to make it so that these are more consistent with the outer shape of the petal, then when you do the next row, Just do your usual thing like this. And there we go. I think I'll make this one a little bit thicker. I don't think I want another one on the top because I think that will make the shape look a little odd. Right, so my brush again. And you can, while you're brushing the colour around, you can just kind of make it a smoother line on the outer edge by not wobbling it backwards and forwards so much, just by following the curve of the line that you've done, you will get that lovely rose shape. So there we are, that is 2 ways of getting your rose. Now with this it's slightly easier to add some different colour. So I'm just going to put some raspberry, sort of purpley colour on my palette here. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. And while it is still wet, you can add in some of this. You can use your water brush, doesn't matter. But you can add in a darker colour to add some definition or some shadows and give your rose a little more depth. I'm going to add some of that to the centre. There we go. And that's it, it's done. Now the great thing is with this is that it is easy. It gives a nice loose finish. It's not by any stretch of the imagination hard to do. So I'm hoping that if any of you are interested in trying to paint a few flowers, maybe for a card or something like that, you'll have the courage to give it a go. The only failure you can get is not trying in the first place. Thanks for watching.